Haldane rolling right along. Time to welcome in Patrick Grimion. He's the host of the Patty G Show. Joins us every Thursday. We step away from the rest of the headlines to talk a little bit about business and business culture. Well, this is one that's actually reverberating through the headlines as we speak. When COVID hit, everybody went home. A lot of work from home was going on. We found out we can do a lot via Zoom. We could do a lot remotely. We can dial in. And we also found out that by and large, productivity was dropping off as a result of that. A lot of offices said, okay, enough playtime. Let's get back to work. And a lot of the workforce says, I just can't. Joining us now to talk about this, Patrick Grimion. Good morning, man.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm making it, man.
Yeah?
It's National Seersucker Day, and I feel out of place.
So I got a seersucker jacket that I'll be donning later on, but I got a Haspel shirt on as well. So I want to make sure I was fully repping.
I love it.
The brand that brought seersucker to Louisiana over 100 years ago.
I love it. It's quite a clash you've got between the print and the jacket.
It's probably ill-advised to start grabbing a jacket before 4 a.m. But yeah, I'm not.
It looks exactly the same.
Okay. This makes no sense on the radio, but this is why I'm not wearing the jacket right now.
He's wearing a patterned shirt, and the jacket's patterned. I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
And the patterns are very similar.
Yes, I know. So,
but it's still.
But that's why I'm in the Haspel shirt.
And
I'm in the spirit of Seersucker Day.
Just hide the seersucker jacket.
It wasn't that long ago that I needed to be convinced of the value of seersucker, because to me it just looked like a silly suit. It looked wrinkled, but once I tried one on, I was like, wow, I'm not sweating. First of all, it's light, it's comfortable, it's very, if you were to take it away from clothing and put it in any other facet of life, very user-friendly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've worn one on the show, and it breathes very well.
And you get away from the original, white and light blue stripe pattern, and I'm sold. I've got 2 or 3 Haspel jackets that none of them look like the traditional seersucker suit, but I mean, like the pattern I've got here.
Yeah, and then you want to showcase it today when you go into the office. Right. You want to show off to your coworkers your seersucker.
On National Seersucker Day.
Right.
And Haspel's the OG, man. Been in Louisiana for over 100 years. So
it's a hot minute.
Yeah. It's a long time for people to be working in the office.
Yeah, you were there opening day, right?
For Haspel?
Yeah.
No. I am in the office regularly, and that doesn't seem to be the trend. The trend right now is folks are having trouble getting back into the office. So the headline where are we getting this from? Entrepreneur Magazine?
Yeah.
The great return to the office, hailed as the elixir for the languishing economy and the panacea for remote work's woes, is slowly revealing an unforeseen dark side. Beneath the glitter of the office's glass walls, an insidious scourge is quietly permeating a mental health crisis. Think of it as a silent workplace apocalypse, one where zombies aren't gnawing at your physical being, but where stress, anxiety, and burnout gnaw at your peace of mind.
This guy definitely used a thesaurus, by the way.
He dove in on a thesaurus. The silent alarm bells began ringing with the findings of a recent study by the Conference Board. It's like an unsettling bedtime story for CEOs. The monster under the business bed that refuses to be ignored. Around 34% of workers admitted to experiencing lower mental health levels compared to just 6 months ago. And as if this wasn't disconcerting enough, 37% reported a decrease in their level of engagement and sense of belonging, paradoxically juxtaposed with them working harder than ever.
So I think that's an interesting take. Now, they don't get into the details about what industries they interviewed within this survey. They don't get into what jobs of folks that they were talking about to get these statistics, because I'm curious, of that 30% that they interviewed, how many of those folks were those at home just moving their mouse on their mouse pad to keep things going during the pandemic, as opposed to actually being productive? And a body at rest will remain at rest, right?
Yes, unless acted upon by an outside force.
And now this outside force is saying, hey, y'all, kind of get your pants on and get in the office. We need you back to work, because beforehand you were doing it, we were letting it slide, and now we're not. So now it's like this shift where people are mentally strained because they're not used to having that level of workflow, right? And now it's, how do we get back in gear? How do we get back up to speed to what we were doing in 19?
Okay. I know I can have a reputation for being less than warm, for being less than concerned, less than empathetic.
No, you're a jolly old fellow.
But I am. I actually am. My concern here is for mental health overall. Mm-hmm. How much of this is legit and how much of this is whining? How much of this is you've had playtime and recess for 3 years? Suck it up, Buttercup. Get your butt back in the office.
Yeah.
Get over it. Not everything is a mental health crisis. Now, I'm not trying to discount it and make it sound like it's 100% invalid. That's not where I'm going with this. Where I am going with this is for those people who are actually suffering, how many narcissist, whiny-ass babies out there are there just answering the questions the way they feel they should answer the questions so that they can have it easier?
Right. You've got that whole, and if you look at it, it's a generational response.
Oh, bro.
They break it down by generation, what percentage of folks are experiencing more burnout. And it's like you're 25, you're 26, you're 24, you're 28. Mm-hmm. You've only been in the workforce for maybe 5 years, 6 years, 8 years at best, and you've got burnout.
Right.
What jobs are you working that's so...
Not just been in the workforce, but roughly half of your time there has been at home.
Yeah, it's been been during the pandemic. So it's again, we don't know what industries they're talking about, but for these folks that are sitting behind a computer, what's the level of burnout and engagement you've had really just working for 5 years?
Right.
Or is it now kicking the pants and you're like, I now have to work. Yeah. I now have to do a job. Yeah. I'm past studying, I'm past partying. And now it's like we got to go and do something to be productive and earn a paycheck.
The story goes on to say the trend is starker amongst millennials who have been pooped on their entire time on Earth, basically. It's
They've been ragged on since the beginning, since they came up with the term millennial.
Since the term millennial was invented, millennials have been the butt of the joke, the target of every attack, and they just can't help themselves. That being said, I don't know that the reputation is deserving as the blame that they get. But 43% of millennials report decreased engagement,
which is odd. Your decreased engagement when you're back in a place where people are, but you had increased engagement when you were away from people. Mm-hmm. Like, and the article gets to it a little bit later on with one of the reasonings for that. But it's how are you now sitting next to somebody and not able to communicate in the same way you were from home, whether it's through Teams, text? It's
I just can't. That's where it's at.
Driving to work is that
I can't even is the phrase. Surprisingly, 38% of Gen X reports decreased engagement, and that's surprising to me because as a member of Gen X, we've always been apathetic. We have never I
feel like y'all have always been the middle child of generations.
Yeah, I know.
Just like glossed over.
I know. But we don't care. So how can that decrease? We already didn't care. I'm going to get the job done and go look after millennials. They're the ones that need a little caretaking right now. We got a break. Patrick Gramion's in the house. He's the host of the Patty G Show. We talk business every Thursday. That conversation will continue right after we check traffic, check Your Money Now, which is coming your way right now. It is 6:46 at Talk 107.3 FM.
Oh, look. Now we get an illustration. You're exactly right. It's like a funnel.
Yeah.
That funnels through the north to south.
But it goes right over the mountains.
Well, like, why is New York so far off to the right, but they're experiencing such a deep hue?
Wind patterns.
But I'm showing like she's showing the wind pattern. Like New York was not very highlighted, but yet it looks like this.
I don't know. I gotta go back to it. That's what New York looks like.
That's poor outfit choice to cover. She kind of blends in with the buildings and the smoke. Ruben.
Yeah.
Good old Ruben.
To be burnt out.
From what?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, are you burnt out each day?
I'm not personally burnt out.
I'm saying like
I'm 25, but if I ever felt burnt out, am I not allowed to?
So, no, you're allowed to feel whatever you want to feel, but let's evaluate your life and what you're doing to really determine, is it your work and the job that's burning you out?
Like everything.
Or is it everything else, i.e., going and partying each night with your friends, going out, not getting to bed till midnight, 1 o'clock, and then your office saying, hey, you got to be in by 7. So now you're only getting 5 hours of sleep because you were hanging out last night,
I
you
would
know?
kill for 5 hours of sleep.
Well, okay, Brian. Like, what's your real sense of burnout? Or is it just easy to blame it on the office space?
It's probably
And
just easy to blame it.
it's easy, you know, just like millennials are easy to just throw blame at everything else that's going wrong with the world. It's like, let's blame the office space for burnout within a 25-year-old.
Yeah,
When in reality, they're working maybe 40, 45 hours a week.
which is normal.
Right. But then you've got this element of social that they're all on, that it's promoting a lifestyle that is not the 40 to 45 hour week, and you should be able to go to whatever you want to do in the evening and party all night
And still
and then,
somehow have money. I don't get that. Like
there's a lot of external support coming.
Yep.
Let's just
Like, I always
just
see-
be honest.
I always see people that like I went to high school with, and they're like partying, going on all these trips and all this stuff, and I never see them post like anything about work, or I don't even know where they work, none of that. And I'm like, how do y'all have, first of all, the time, second of all, the money to be going on all these trips? Like,
Well, they live at a good net
Outside
zero
of
of their
these.
bank account.
Yeah. That's-
Or they do all these credit card hacks. They open 6 credit cards, you use one to pay off the other, and you just keep rotating it, you know?
I'm always like, they got a sugar daddy, or they have like a OnlyFans or something.
Well, those platforms do allow for a
That's mean, but,
unique
like-
lifestyle. Well, it's not mean, but if you watch those, you know, now you've got people doing more quote unquote social media influencing, and
Yeah.
they're trying to make money that way. And then if they can't do it full time, they then have to go work in a 9 to 5. And then that's creating their burnout, you know? Because they've only been doing it for 4 years, and it's just, it's hard, Brian. It's hard.
It's
Adulting is
hard.
It's hard.
Brian just doesn't understand.
Yeah,
how
you
hard
don't,
it is.
you wouldn't get a Gen Xer.
Mhm.
You don't know the struggle of not having 5G, you know, having to go through a 4G
Yeah.
area. You have no idea.
You don't know
that's
what it's like, Brian.
You were going to set them off.
Brian just doesn't get it. Troy says, let's distinguish burnout from fatigue. That's a good point.
That is a good point. So how do you define fatigue?
Galen says, millennials are weak. Try hiding under a desk during a nuclear holocaust.
True. True. I watched a Challenger explode from a classroom,
That's brutal.
and then just wheeled the TV back out the room and went right back to
There-
bed.
You saw nothing.
It's all an illusion.
Yeah, well, I'm not allowed to read sexual books to kids, so who really has it terribly?
And that's why I don't blame millennials, because baby boomers created the world that millennials live in.
This conversation with somebody the other day, I was like, okay, but is it millennials or is it the people who raised them fault?
Right.
I
Right? If
always-
they're soft, who made them that way?
Yeah. Yes.
Was it soft? Hard times make hard people make soft times make soft people. We just are in soft times.
Yeah. The problem is you can only rotate that cycle so many times within one country before the hard times of another country can create harder people that take over a country.
Mm.
Fortunately for us, Rome burned many, many times
Mhm.
before it was no longer the Roman Empire.
Right.
We're burning.
We have a slow burn, you know.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to pull that clip where it's like, what's your
652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Holding at 71 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Air quality alert out there today. No, it's not going to be as bad as the pics you've been seeing from New York, but it will be something worth taking note if you're an allergies or asthma sufferer. Might have to take a little extra precaution today. Diving back in on our topic here, Patrick. We're talking about the workforce problem in America, the return to office, and I'm hard-pressed to pin this on employers overall, but that's not to say that there aren't the employers out there, and especially in bigger companies where middle management is just stuck for ideas because of an already exacerbated labor shortage, where they're going to put too much on employees. Some of this is real. If I'm going to lead with suck it up, I do need to acknowledge that some of this is real. You've got some bad actors out there that are going to make it unbelievably difficult. Middle management's going to make it unbelievably difficult on the lower rungs of the corporate ladder. And there's legitimacy to some folks wanting to say, I'm not going back in there. I could tolerate it when I didn't have to look at Lumbergh's stupid face every day. And there's no opportunity for growth. There's no encouragement of creativity. There's no autonomy whatsoever. So just some of it is legit.
100%. There is a form of legitimacy to the point where we're at is everybody has this overloaded work schedule where they've got a significant amount of work that exceeds their hours they're going to put in, and trying to find people to absorb some of that is going to be dang near impossible with what we're experiencing right now. And so you've got these people have all this work they've got to get done, and the middle managers are just saying, get it done. You know, they've got people breathing down their neck, so they're going to breathe down the lower end's neck and say, look, I don't care what it takes, get it done. So there is some legitimacy there.
Yeah.
And it's how do you then go about within your organization communicating in an effective manner. And ultimately, it does come down to the management side of things, where they have to start shifting from only giving direct orders to saying, what can I do to help alleviate whatever you've got going on? I can't take everything from you by no stretch of the imagination, but what can I do to maybe take one little project off your plate if it's too much? How can I help?
As far as the back in the office thing is concerned, some of back in the office has to happen, and some of that hybrid flexibility, just because it's available, should happen as well.
100%. On the way here, I think they were saying that Google has 3-day requirements to be in the office.
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable to have some form of, hey, you got to be in the office at least this number of days. We're willing to work with you, but you got to be in here. We have to be able to collaborate in a sense of physically exchange papers across one another, if it makes sense, you know?
Right. Bad ideas back and forth, talk face to face, and there is a certain level of keep tabs on what you're actually doing.
Yes, it's shifted from, I mean, there's a good reason why some corporations are saying, look, anytime we have a Zoom or a Teams call, you've got to have your camera on because I want to see you.
Right.
You know, it's not to see like, oh, am I going to catch them doing something bad? But it's to see, okay, are you at your, you at your house? Or you somewhere else? Like, what's your working environment? Is there anything we can do to help? You know, they've got a video going around on social media of this guy taking a work call, and he's at the bottom of his boat with everything turned off.
Right.
Because he didn't say he was out of the office. And he's like, oh, yeah, Jim, I'm gonna get with you, and we're going to talk to this guy. And it's like, this is what we're seeing people do. Of course, they're going to suggest you come into the office a couple days a week.
The links that people go to avoid working, where just working might have been easier than all the work it takes to not work. And where it's a growing nation of George Costanzas at this point.
Yeah, and as an employer, there are concerns with what you see if you have any type of pulse on what's being posted publicly. There are concerns with seeing people do stuff like this. Are my employees doing this?
Right.
Is my staff not really working and getting productive? That's why, I love the idea of an output-based, monitoring system. Okay, you may be working from home or somewhere else, but are you producing the work that we need to get done? And not just are you active on your computer, sitting there typing on your keyboard and we're checking keystrokes. Are you actually doing work? Right. Are you meeting your deadlines? Are you meeting your deliverables? And I think going back to a deadline-driven workforce is going to start helping people kind of say, "Oh, snap! I got to get get back in gear."
Deadlines are a motivator.
Yeah,
Deadlines are something that can shake you out of the suck it up. I mean, like if you're just mired in complaining about how bad adulting stinks, you're going to stay in that until you're forced out of it. Like you said, an object at rest will stay at rest.
yeah.
So, but there's also a link between mental health and productivity. So walking that balance is not the easiest thing out there.
And there is an ever challenging environment outside of the workforce that comes within the personal life. That there is going to be some challenges. People are going through things each and every day that are different than one another. So there is that tendency to say, hey, let's do some check-ins and make sure that your mental health is in, a reasonable state, right? We can't, as a workforce, as an employer, control everything about your mental state, but let's alleviate if we can, if there's something seriously on there.
This kind of ties into your topic on the show this week.
It does, yes.
I shouldn't say kind of. It straight up does.
It's straight. That's what they do.
Yes.
So this week we've got Lawrence Malone with Post Traumatic Institute, PTI, and they work with corporations focusing on their employers' mental health. And they've had to shift to a digital kind of service providing, because if they have a customer in Geismar, but their office is off of Sherwood, that's 2 hours commuting that they're going to take up out of their precious time of the day. So now they're focusing a lot more on telecommunication that way, where it's you can talk with somebody, you can work through things. But they started with veterans, and started helping veterans get over their PTSD from coming back, and really helping them get to a place where they could be productive citizens in a sense of working through their struggles.
Are they veteran owned?
Yes.
I was going to say, because this is something that's been an ongoing topic here as well, is that no one's going to be able to help veterans like veterans.
100%.
When you're working through what's going on upstairs, you have to have been there in order to really get it. He's Patrick Grimion, host of the Patty G Show, joins us every Thursday. We talk a little business culture, and I always appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Brian.